5 million young Canadians go to school every single day of the week for 6 hours a day. One would hope this much time spent in the classroom should provide many positive results, and on the surface, this may seem to be the case. Graduation rates are rising, literacy rates have gone up by 24% over the last 12 years. However, looking deeper, we can see some fundamental problems that must be addressed before it is too late.
And part of the problem is, I think, that the culture of the dominant culture of education has come to focus on not teaching and learning, but testing. Now, testing is important. Standardized tests have a place, but they should not be the dominant culture of education. They should be diagnostic. They should help.
Now, this isn't only Sir Ken Robinson that thinks this. Students, teachers, even policymakers seem to be saying the same thing.
Do you believe that tests are a fair way of assessing your knowledge of the course?
No, not really.
Do you believe that tests are a fair way of assessing your knowledge of the course?
Personally, no.
And from my perspective, I don't have standardized testing.
Is testing the best way? It's not always the best way.
Sometimes they're unfair because there's teachers I've heard, especially in, I don't think so much in secondary schools, I'm not sure, that actually teach to the test so that the kids will get a higher mark to the school knows better.
That's a good question. One of the things that I really don't like is the way standardized testing has become too ubiquitous.
Yes.
I think
At all levels of our education system, people are saying that the standardized test is either being used incorrectly or is completely failing. Why is this? What are the problems that people see with the standardized test?
ubiquitous. I think the purpose of standardized testing should be to make sure that each student is meeting a certain benchmark. Like every year we should be testing kids and saying, are you developing your language skills and your math skills to the grade level? And then beyond that, standardized testing doesn't have a role, in my view. You know, it's being used for a competition of school versus school, and I think that's really destructive to our system. And you know, and it also means that because it's become the competition, school to school, every teacher feels and every school feels that they have to emphasize, you know, the standardized testing. You know, and that, I think, steals some of the opportunity for creativity and for creative teaching. And so I think you're right. I think you know, the students that are talking to you are absolutely right in that standardized testing is taking too big of a role, and I think it does sap some of the creativity out of the system. And I think we do need to gear back on standardized testing, use it for what it's needed, when it's needed, you know. If a student isn't meeting their grade level in English or math, we as a system, we need to know that. Their teachers need to know that, and they need to implement strategies to get that child up. But, you know, making school a competition for the highest standardized test scores, I think is really unhealthy, you know, in terms of academic achievement and in terms of the fulfillment of learning. Because ultimately, you know, education is about learning. And if kids leave the school system with one thing, I hope it's a love of learning. And if they're feeling that their creativity is being stifled in the system, then we're not going to achieve that goal.
And I personally believe in standardized testing. I've said this many times myself. People learn differently, right, based on, you know, their cultural background. The way a First Nations person learn versus, you know, someone from the Caribbean may learn is not the same way someone from, you know, Europe may learn, right? And our system is very Eurocentric, as you may know, and it does not really capture the different voices in our very diverse education system.
Here are some real teachers' thoughts about the negative repercussions of the culture of testing over learning that we have established in our schools.
Well, you're going to get kids going away and thinking they're capable of doing things, and then they're going to get to university and college and they're not going to do very well at it because their knowledge background isn't there. And it's, you know, sadly, you're not going to find out till you get there in some cases. So, you know, I think it's part of the process would be the university, the high school and the teachers and that community has to be aware of how their students are doing. The parents have to be involved and know how their kids are doing. Are your kids understanding the concepts? It's not just about did your kid get 92 in the test. It should be about did you understand what you learned? Because you might learn that, or you might need that again in first year university or college. And so if you didn't learn it, you need to learn it. You need to understand it. It's not a matter of just learning to test. It should be learning to understand.
Do you think that the big emphasis on standardized tests is a good thing or a bad thing in the school system?
I think you've got to write out how much they standardize and going beyond that. Just get a snapshot of where kids are and how to help them improve as individuals. Unfortunately, those stats are being used to inflate real estate prices, to claim that if you live in this area, the elementary school grade 3, grade 6 marks for reading, writing, and arithmetic are really high, so then you assume that your kid will do well too. No, that isn't necessarily the case. That just means that could just mean the biggest indicator is income. The parents have the resources to help those kids get to that expectation of level 3 or 4 on the reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's the biggest indicator about that school.
Students also felt that the high emphasis on testing was ineffective.
Because tests, well, first of all, when you take a test, you're testing your short-term knowledge of the course, right? But take a class like geography, for instance. So we're forced to take it and take tests and stuff, things. In some classes or some schools, exams, right? If you got, say, like somebody who's 30 years old or a bunch of 30-year-olds to do a grade 9 geography exam, they probably wouldn't pass it. So they're not preparing us for the long term. They're preparing us. They're just asking us what we know for now, but we're almost very likely to forget it
and never use it again.
Exactly.
Everybody kind of just studies it last minute. It just all of the knowledge you accumulated over a few hours go from the test. It's not exactly the fairest way to learn.
So what, in your opinion, would be a fair way of learning or assessing your knowledge of the course or unit?
Assignments. Mandatory assignments at the end of every few classes or so. It shows what you truly learned. If you have incentive to do it, as soon as you learn it, you'll most likely perform better and more accurately.
Another issue that many people see is that tests promote conformity rather than inspiring creativity. Here is an example of a real multiple choice test that was presented to a grade 11 English class. Subjective questions such as, which of the following quotations sounds best, and which would spoil the poetry, should never be asked on a multiple choice test. And while this is of course an extreme example of killing creativity, the fact that our school system is fine with such inhumane methods of evaluation says a lot. Some teachers blatantly agree to supporting this.
So you're saying that we should punish students for not conforming to the rules?
Yeah.
Now, the present may seem gloomy. However, some of our most influential people are starting to address these issues.
We have students who are doing exceptionally well, who finish high school and they move on to other aspects in life in post-secondary, or even work or internships, and may not, the standardized test is only a small portion of their total success, right? So increasingly, the conversation that is happening in many places with parents and staff, and certainly our trustees as well, is that we need to go wider instead of looking at, we don't want to define success only by EQA scores. No disrespect to that standardized measure. It's only one view, but there are many other metrics that we use.
However, this isn't enough. If this injustice of testing over learning in our schools is to change, then we must all stand together at all levels of our society to fight against the destructive culture that has been forced upon us and go beyond the tests.